Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. This episode of Proof of Love is brought to you by a gold hedging solution for the crypto community, Vaultoro. I keep about 10% of my crypto assets in gold using Vaultoro. I can open a gold wallet in seconds and easily trade with cryptos and gold. What I like about using Vaultoro instead of Tether is that the gold in my Vaultoro wallet is insured, audited, vaulted in Switzerland, and unlike fiat money, gold has increased in value for the last 20 years. Visit vaultoro.gold/Tatiana today and get zero trading fees for the first 3 months. That is vault like a gold vault and oro, which is Spanish for gold. Vaultoro, ole! Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proof of Love, the show where you get all confused because you're showing all your emotions and then you feel a little bit shamed and then you feel better. So welcome back to Proof of Love. Thank you for joining us. We've been on the air since February 2019. So we've been giving some love advice to not just the crypto community and the tech community, but the world at large. And frankly, I'm wondering if there are any men listening to the show. If you're a guy that's listening to the show, let us know. Because sometimes I feel like we're female focused, but we actually are making this show to improve everybody. I am joined today by the beautiful Dr. Stephanie Murphy. Hello, Stephanie Murphy.
Hello, beautiful Tatiana. Thank you for that introduction. And I know for a fact that there are multiple men listening to the show.
Oh, really? Who are they?
Well, I could tell you off the air. I don't want to out anybody, but I know that there's more than one.
Okay, good. I didn't know. Is this like a dirty secret? People are like, oh man, I needed to listen to the Sexy Sue Dick episode.
Well, I don't know if it's a dirty secret for them, but I've heard from more than one guy who says they listen and then they appreciate it. And I've heard from lots of people of all genders listen to our show. So there you go.
Very good. Well, we have a guest today. We don't have Lauren, unfortunately. She's got this whole day job nonsense going on. But we have Hannah Rosenberg, who I've known for a really long time. She's from the crypto community out in Chicago. She's the managing director of the Blockchain Institute. And she's been seeing some of our Proof of Love posts. We're friends on Facebook. And she's often posing questions to her audience, friends, whatever it is. And so I thought that there was some cool crossover. As you know, we always have different people on the show. Sometimes we have relationship experts. Sometimes we have people from the community. So welcome to the show, Hannah. Thanks so much for making the time.
Hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here. And yes, continue the entertaining Facebook conversations. Yes.
Excellent. So before we get started on, breaking down relationships and all that, maybe for the audience, if you could tell us a little bit about the Blockchain Institute and how you got started in crypto and kind of what brought you and what makes this community so wonderful or terrible. You tell us.
It's a little bit of both. It kind of depends on the day. No, I've been in crypto for a while. I have a background in economics and was really fascinated by monetary theory. And that's how I wound up discovering Bitcoin way back in 2012. And then just, as people do, you fall madly in love with this technology and its potential. And then that's kind of how I wound up getting into education, just by default, you wind up running around just telling people about this stuff and then typing up, big long email explanations to your friends and family. And you're like, I should post this somewhere, So that's what I do full time now at the Blockchain Institute. It's a 501c3 nonprofit that teaches people blockchain tech. And I'm managing director here, and I help write a lot of the Bitcoin curriculum, which we have tons of stuff for free on the website. So, if someone's looking to, get into the space and learn more, it's, I hope, a very good place to start.
That's great, Hannah, because we're always looking for blockchain education resources that we can suggest. So what is the website again?
theblockchaininstitute.org.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we have lots of free stuff, and that's kind of, I think you all have been in crypto a long time as well and know that, for many, many years, there's just all kinds of different educational resources, but scattered and, in this camp or in that camp. And it's very hard to, I really wanted there to be a place to go where you can just go to this place and here's excellent resources to start,
So awesome. Well, we'll definitely leave some links in the show notes. So people, you're not just going to grow your emotional intelligence. You can brush up on some of your blockchain basics, if you will.
That's right.
But tell us a little bit about your dating history. You're in a relationship. Are you not in a relationship? I don't know what you want to reveal. Sometimes people don't want to reveal things. We are big into revealing, but
Yes.
that's just us.
Yeah, no, and I'm like I told y'all, I'm scared I'm going to get myself into trouble because I am a very, very honest person and have been becoming even more so. I'm experimenting with, the life philosophy that the truth will set you free, so I'm a very, very honest person, prone to oversharing. So I will say that my 10-year wedding anniversary is coming up in December. So I've been with my husband for about 13 years now. And of course that experience informs my opinions, but I do get myself in trouble on Facebook sometimes. And so I need to say that I like to talk about relationships in theory, and stuff fascinates me and it's very interesting. And anything that I say, any, relation to my current, to my marriage is pure coincidence. I'm not talking directly about my marriage at any point.
Well, I see you asking questions online, and they seem a little bit more broad. So, but that's a good caveat.
Yeah.
No spoilers or anything.
Yes. Well, my husband is a private person, so doesn't want me talking about specifics of our marriage in public, which is entirely fair. So I'll respect that.
By the way, Hannah, congratulations on being married almost 10 years. I mean, that sounds really cool. Yeah. Would you say that you and your husband are one of those couples where one person is an extrovert and one person is an introvert, and he would be the introvert and you would be the extrovert?
No, it's very, very situational. So online, I'm definitely the extrovert on the internet. Right? He's, sometimes I'll post things on Facebook and tag him just out of a joke because I know he won't see it for a month, But in person, he's sort of the crazy person that will just put his foot in his mouth constantly. And I'm sitting there like kicking him to shut up. So it's very, very different depending on whether or not in person or online. Yeah.
So I imagine when you're together that long, you both go through a lot of changes. Would you say that's accurate? And like the key to as we were talking last week with Valerie Green, relationship coach, she was saying that like she thinks one of the keys to a lasting relationship is that you grow in the same direction or you grow together. Would you say that that's played a role in your relationship with your husband?
I'd say that's wholeheartedly correct. Yeah. It's because we've been together 13 years now. And you think when I met him, I was 24, right? And what was sort of the priority in my head, at least at that time, my relationship was I wanted, a husband and a baby daddy. These were, right? Like these are things I was actively looking for. I want to have a family, and this is what I'm pursuing at this moment in my life. And then now, 13 years later, we have a family, and now I'm pursuing other things in my life. And so it's, we lined up really, really well at that moment in our lives. And then now it's like we have to put conscious effort into continuing to line up,
Do you believe in marriage because of that? Because when you were saying that you've been married for that long, and I'm not asking you like if you guys are still doing it, but how do you keep the spark alive? You know what I'm saying? That I think for most people that want a monogamous relationship, they worry not only will they change, but then they're not going to be as attracted to each other anymore.
Yeah.
I think you have to wear a costume, you know what I mean? Like tonight I'm going to dress like a pirate. Like how does it go?
Well, costumes are great always in all kinds of scenarios, but no, this is a really good question. I think especially when you're young, right? When I was 24, right? You absorb the values from the people around you. This is what a marriage is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to, we have children, it's monogamous. There's, all these things that are just laid out. This is exactly what a marriage is supposed to be. And then you get older and sometimes it's like some of those things don't line up with you anymore. And you're like, this is working, but this isn't. And I want, I think having a long-term partner is a fantastic idea, at least for me and probably for most humans. And I really wish that in general, we would have, customized relationships rather than one size fits all, right? You can negotiate on all of those points rather than just accepting them from the get-go.
Yeah. Wow. That really resonates a lot with me, Hannah. And I think that's totally true. Like when we're younger, we get this idea of the default of what a relationship is supposed to look like. And we get that from lots of places, from our parents, from movies, from songs, from TV, from books, like everywhere. We just kind of absorb it. And from observing other couples, of course, we just kind of absorb it from the ether, that's floating around in the culture. And then we think, okay, well, if I have a relationship, then that's what it's going to look like, or that's what it's supposed to look like, or that's what it should look like.
Yep.
But then, for me anyway, like I was kind of a rebellious or I was like one of those contrarian teenagers and also adults who likes to question things, right? I don't like to just accept the cultural default just because that's what everyone does. I like to think about things a little bit more than that. And so for me, that was like, I was thinking like, well, I don't like everything about this cultural default of what a relationship is supposed to look like, which is basically all relationships should model a monogamous marriage. I didn't feel like that quite fit me at the time in my life. And so then I was like, F this, I just reject it all. And so I'm going to do something radically different with my relationships.
Right.
But then I found that wasn't working well for me either. So I was like, well, what do I do? And so I'm not trying to make this all about me, but for me, the answer I think that I've settled on now at this point in my life is that, yes, I actually do want a monogamous relationship, but I want it to be consciously chosen and consciously designed, where I pick and choose the things with my partner that I want out of the relationship. And then we do that because we wholeheartedly are on board with it. And that we both think that that's the best thing, or that's what we want to do. Not because someone told us that's what we should do, or that's what relationships just are supposed to look like, right? It's more consciously chosen than that. So maybe it seems like a subtle distinction, but that's what I've found. I don't know. Tell me about your journey on that.
Yeah. I really hate the idea that we should just have a one size fits all relationships. This is what a relationship is. This is what it looks like, So I think that, it's so important to go through and question all those things. And I think I love the idea of sort of renegotiating every so often, these assumptions we had, or these things that we agreed upon at this point in time, is that still working for us? And does this still work for us? And because to backtrack a little bit, like on staying on the same page with your partner, I think, I'm going to wind up going on a tangent about Bitcoin maximalists, but you have a lot of people.
Oh, that sounds great.
For it. Yeah, we like this.
So there's a subculture amongst Bitcoin maximalists that think they're suddenly biology experts, which has been really entertaining. And so I think sometimes it winds up being this very simplistic view of humanity, right? Where you say, women are X, Y, and Z, and men are A, B, and C, and that's just the way it is. And so you have these situations where there are commonalities, right? Like women often want to go and start families. This is something that's very common, right? And so we have that, we can see that instinct, and then we just decide that this applies to everything always, right? And so it's very interesting myself going through that experience where I very much had the I want to have a family instinct. And then that makes me line up with the partner really well. And that makes traditional monogamous marriage make a lot of sense. And then a decade later, you're like, I'm now experiencing an entirely different set of instincts because I'm not one-dimensional. I'm a complex human, right? And now this situation no longer really makes sense for me, right? It's different. And parts of it make sense, but other parts of it don't. And so I think it's really important not just to have like a customized relationship, but one that changes over time, because humans change over time and our instinct expression changes over time,
Tatiana, do you have something you want to jump in with? Otherwise, I'll ask a question.
I had something earlier. Have you guys tried to renegotiate at any point? Like, have you done it in a formal way? Have you done those, recommitment ceremonies or anything like that?
We haven't been any ceremonies, but we're both hideous nerds. So there have been like spreadsheets and meetings on the calendar and all that good
spreadsheets.
Stuff.
What do you need a spreadsheet for?
This is a point of contention. Yeah. My husband loves the spreadsheets though. So I've given up. He puts our relationship into a spreadsheet. Okay. It's all right.
Awesome. So what are some things that you've observed outside of your relationship? Unless, Stephanie, is there anything that you wanted to tackle here? Because I know Hannah's been also observing things, and I always find her insights there kind of.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the observations too, but I mean, I'm just curious, like, so when you do the renegotiation of what you want your relationship to look like, how do you do that? Do you schedule periodic check-ins? And like, has there been anything major? Like, it sounds like you're kind of alluding to like, maybe that you opened up the relationship or something like that. Or I don't know if you want to share, but like, what does the renegotiation, look like?
Yeah.
Do you first agree on like how you're going to talk about it and when you're going to talk about it and then actually talk about the meat of it? Or do you just bring it up whenever you have something you want to change? And then what have you talked about changing?
Well, I think going forward, now there will be sort of periodic sit down, every couple of years or so. How's this working for us? I stumbled into this problem, of course, blindly, like most people do. All of a sudden you're like, oh crap, we have these 2 or 3 major issues that we keep butting heads on, and we really need to sit down and sort them out, right? And go through that. I'm not going to talk specifics about what we're doing, because I doubt my husband would appreciate that. But I think these things are really, really important. And I think especially monogamy, I think that for most humans, it's not instinctual to do it, for decades. And then even when you get into that, if you say, oh, well, we're not going to be monogamous, or we're going to experiment with that. There's 20 different ways to do just that. and it's really, really hard to get everyone's varying instincts to line up. It's a can of worms. And I think it takes conscious, consistent effort to get through that long term. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I feel like I have so much I could say about this, but
Right?
but I just want to ask, like, do you believe it's possible to have a long-term monogamous relationship? And I'm talking more than like 7 to 10 years, which is the time frame that a lot of people cite as like, you've heard about the 7-year itch, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Get sick of each other about the time that it takes to raise a child to relative, like it could survive on its own, right? And this is supposed to be like an evolutionary biology thing. I don't know if that's true or if it's more cultural than people say, but it seems to be a thing, right? Like a lot of relationships last about 7 years and then they fall apart. And sometimes it's very disorienting because they thought they'd be together forever. Do you think it's possible to have a long-term for life monogamous relationship that is also continues to be sexually exciting?
I'm going to say I think it's possible, although I have to admit that I have no good examples to lean on, when like looking at that.
Right. Well, part of the problem is that people don't talk about it, right? Like you could, maybe your parents have been together for 40 years, but are you going to ask them like, hey, mom and dad, like, do you ever think about effing other people?
Jesus.
Right. You're not going there. No.
And everyone's influenced by their parents' relationship. I mean, that's totally true, whether we're conscious of it or not. They're one of the biggest influences on our relationship life, but we don't, in this culture, we do not talk to them about sex usually because there's a firm boundary around that. So, yeah, right. What do you do when you're trying to look for examples of relationships and you have sexual questions, right? You have to read books or talk to a therapist or talk to trusted friends. Yeah, go ahead, Hannah.
No, I'm just saying it's taboo, and that's a big part of the problem. But I do think such things are possible. And I think that one really, really important thing, what brings people together, what makes that relationship click so well and work so well when you're having a family is that you have this really big project that you're working together on. And then once that project doesn't require so much of your time, my kids can get up and dress themselves and, pack their lunch and everything, then to stay on the same page and to stay excited about each other, I think you have to have a project to work on together. Even if it's just silly things in hobbies that you do together, there has to be some, reason to bring you together that something you're excited to go build with your partner. And I think that kind of triggers those same instincts, that like bonding instinct. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great tip. So you were saying that you and your husband both consider yourselves nerds. Is that right? And I mean that in the most respectful way.
Yes, very much. We're both nerds. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I self-identify as a nerd as well. And I think that, like, do you think that that nerdiness can apply to relationships too? Like, I feel like my partner calls us relationship nerds because we love to read about it. We love to talk about our relationship. We love to think about our relationship. We almost get into it as a project itself. Like, can your relationship be the project that you work on?
That's a cool idea. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. And we are kind of a little bit relationship nerds. Like I said, my husband has these spreadsheets, so that's a pretty nerdy way to analyze a relationship. But I
mean, I still want to know what's on these spreadsheets. Is it like remember to bring flowers for Valentine's Day or something?
Yeah, let's not get into it. And there are Google Docs, like shared Google Docs we comment on, it's like, it's bad.
Well, I think that's kind of adorable, but anyway.
It's helpful. And sometimes, especially when you're having an issue and things are very emotionally charged, it's better to take the time to stop and type a comment rather than just, trying to spit something out in the moment when you're feeling frustrated or sad or whatever the case may be,
I like to send out angry messages, but I've gotten a lot better at that over the years. I feel like, just as a side note, congratulations to me for not hitting send so many times. Very good now.
For not hitting send? What about congratulations for speaking your mind when you did hit send and drawing boundaries?
I don't think that I need to draw them so loudly. I think I can draw them in a more calm fashion.
There's a line to be found there, and it's not always easy to find, especially after a couple of glasses of wine. Yeah.
Indeed. So what are some of the things that you're observing as an outsider? You're looking in on the dating world, you're mystified. What are some of the things that you think are weird? Obviously, there's online dating, there's dick pics, there's all sorts of things going on. What do you think is like a weird phenomenon that you've noticed, or something that you see a lot of friends going through and you feel like you have some commentary about? You don't even have to have advice, just commentary is okay.
One thing that I like to go on a rant about is the whole, Me Too thing happened, and then you get dudes worried about, can I hit on someone or can't I? And one thing that I really point that I think is really important is, I work in an industry where there are a lot of guys, so I'm surrounded by guys all the time. And I have absolutely no problem with anyone hitting on me ever, as long as they do so respectfully. Like, that's that really important point. So I like to tell people, it's like, hit on everyone all the time. Like, do that constantly. There's nothing wrong with that. But the really important thing is to be respectful to people, like hit on people in a really classy fashion,
Well, I don't know. I take issue with that a little bit. Like, is it possible for a boss to even hit on an employee respectfully? Because, like, there's a big power dynamic there, right? And there's always the subtext of, if you say no, you could get retaliated against.
Right. So that's a good point. So I would add that caveat in situations like that. Like, you can't hit on an employee, you can't hit on a student, something of that sort. Like, just don't do it. If you're that into them, get a new job. Teach somewhere else.
So I have a comment about this, only because it recently came up, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that Me Too, it's great. There's a lot of creepy dudes. There's a lot of creepy chicks. And, thumbs down for the creepers. I'm a little bit eye-rolly at the people, like, I don't know, the one that had the bad date with Aziz Ansari. Like, come on, sister, get over it. You know what I mean? I don't really care about that. But It does happen.
I do. I just want to go on record. Sorry.
All right, fine. So the Aziz thing we can loop back to. But I have a friend of mine, right? And I've had a couple female friends approach me because they were in these situations where they were in a business situation with him on a trip. And I'm like trying to see how I can obfuscate who these people are. But anyway, so they were on a trip. He invited them on the trip. They were supposed to do something there, perform, and he was trapping them in these environments. And then they would come to me and they would say, oh my God, he keeps hitting on me. I keep, having all these incidents happen. And it happened with the first girl. And then the next year it happened with the next girl. And I just feel like, personally a little bit responsible for that. But also what I observed was that here's a guy that I know that's a regular guy that I'm friends with. And yet he's completely tone deaf to these women saying no to him. Like, I don't think he's actually a rapey kind of guy, but actually he is. You know what I mean? Like when I think of him, I don't think of him as somebody who would be really creepy and inappropriate. And yet he can't really tell that he's crossing that line. And if you talk to him about Me Too stuff, he'd probably say, yeah, you know, these guys, they have to stop hitting on these girls. So how do we convey to people that we know that are generally okay people, but are still having problems with these boundaries? It seems like no should be very obvious. But on the other hand, you have, you know, it's romantic to keep pursuing someone even though they say no. So how do you navigate that?
Yeah. So this is a really tricky one, right? Because when I was a young woman back in college, I decided I was going to be a good feminist and put my money where my mouth was, and I was going to go hit on dudes. You know, if I liked a guy, I was going to go ask him out. I wasn't going to sit around and wait. You know, I'm like, okay. And I sat down because I'm a big nerd with a pen and paper, right, to decide on the proper way to hit on someone. And how do you hit on someone without making them uncomfortable? And you come to the conclusion that you can't really. But over the years watching all this stuff, I've come up with like a couple of what I think are good ideas, right? So you should never hit on someone unless you have a plan for how to exit gracefully or how to let them exit gracefully, you know? So like that, you're saying your friend, they were in some sort of controlled environment where maybe they were, you know, like if you're sharing a hotel room with someone at a conference somewhere, like don't hit on them if you have to go back to the same hotel room together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
can I tell him like, hey dude, these chicks are coming to me and saying that you're being creepy. I mean, how does he not even know this? Ugh, whatever.
You say you have to, if you're going to hit on someone, make it so they have a graceful exit, just in case it doesn't work out. Right. So if you want to hit on someone that you're on a work trip with, hit on them on the last day when there's a graceful exit if it doesn't work.
Yeah, so you can hang your head in shame like a normal person the next day.
Yes.
A little Irish goodbye action.
I would like to add a little bit to that because I think there's a lot in that, right? Like, I think a graceful exit, what that means is that the person has to feel like they can say no and that that's okay. Their no is going to be heard and respected.
Great point, Steph. Killer point. Exactly. Because they might not even know. You may say yes, but you don't really mean it because you're pressured.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And part of that is if you're going to be approaching people for hitting on them or for initiating some kind of relationship or sexual encounter, you need to be also comfortable with taking rejection gracefully. Yes. Because that's the scary thing for women when they feel like they can't say no because they're afraid if they say no, they're going to experience some kind of retaliation. Then they're in a really difficult spot and they feel very uncomfortable. And I'm sure this doesn't just happen with women, of course. Like it happens commonly with women, but it could happen with anyone of any gender, right? Especially if there's a power dynamic in the situation, like you're trapped on a island with this person, or you are their employee, or they are, you know, your family friend or your family member or something like that. Ew. If you're stuck with them, yeah, right. I mean, it's you say,
if you're a family member, you shouldn't hit on people, just like that are in your family as a general rule.
Definitely. I completely support that rule. But, you know, it happens, right? Like it could be like not a blood relative, like you're okay, I'm just going to stop with this thread anyway. Okay. The point is, yeah, if you're going to make an offer to someone, because I think you can think of it that way too, right? You're not asking them for something. You're offering yourself to them, right? And hopefully you're proud of what you have to offer, right? Why wouldn't anyone want me? Because I'm a great person. I've been doing a lot of work on myself. I do what I need to do to make myself the most attractive partner I can. And if someone doesn't want me, that's okay. There's going to be maybe plenty of other people who do because I put effort into making myself. And I don't depend on any one person saying yes for my self-esteem, right? Because if someone feels that the person who's hitting on them will be just crushed and their self-esteem will be destroyed if they say no, that also puts a lot of pressure and it makes it so that it's harder for their no to be heard and accepted. And they sense that they can pick up on that. They can sense it. So
yeah. No, those are really good points.
This person's using that to their advantage. And that's what's so creepy about it. It's like he should know better. I'm so mad.
Well, yeah, actually, okay. So this is not your fault, Tatiana. I'm not trying to shame you, but I'm curious, like, why do you maintain a friendship with this person? Has it not gotten that bad yet? Or do you just believe he's not a bad guy? Or
No,
tell me
I
about
don't
that.
maintain a friendship with him. I mean, I have to work with him in certain
Oh, I
things,
see.
but
Okay.
at this point, you know, after some reflection, we were never that close in the first place. It's more circumstantial, like hangs. But now that I thought about it some more, I'm like, wait a second, this is actually really bad behavior. And I've thought about confronting it. But I also feel like, you know, it's a weird situation because the girls, they don't want to confront it, right? And so now all of a sudden I'm just like saying, well, they told me that they're creeped out. So get it together, Buster. You know, like
Yeah.
it's not that powerful because you kind of need those girls to do it. And then after a certain point, to be candid, you kind of roll your eyes because you're like, come on, girls, you got to tell these guys to lay off. Like, I don't feel like I have too many dudes creepily hitting on me because when I start to sense anything along that line, I channel my father and I get like Brooklyn and like tough and businessy and aggressive, and then I'll curse, but in a mean way. Not mean, but like I kind of try and make myself seem more manly and like a little bit harder.
You're setting a boundary.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are these girls doing? I mean, I get it, but I don't know. It's also a little bit frustrating because if they don't start, you know, pushing back a little bit harder, I mean, you don't have to be totally nasty about it, but you can be firm. I wish that women felt more comfortable with that. And I do think that there is some onus on us to take a little bit of responsibility there. Like, come on, you know, punch them in the nose.
Yeah.
I would
mean,
say, go ahead, Hannah, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, that's ideal. Is you want you know, women to know how to say no. I think at this point in my life, I'm pretty good at that. But it's also the risk of like hitting on someone. Like that's why you can't hit on someone who's, you know, your employee or your student, or I'd say even significantly younger than you. You have to be really careful with that because they might not have yet developed good skills for how to express what they want, and you might wind up putting them in a really awkward position or difficult position.
Yeah, I'm here to stick up for the women who have difficulty saying no, because that has been me throughout a lot of my life. And it's hard, especially when you grow up with people pleasing or difficulties with boundaries. I remember, you know, saying yes to date offers from dudes that I wasn't attracted to at all. And I thought for some reason I should give him a chance. There was this voice in my head saying, oh, I'm not attracted to him at all, but I should really give him a chance. Come on, he's taking the initiative to ask me out. I should give him a chance. And then I ended up in a really even more uncomfortable situation because I was on a date with someone I didn't like, and then I had to figure out how to say no, and the stakes were even higher because I already said yes to the date. So
I relate to that too much. The painful memories come flooding back. But yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I want to acknowledge too, there's a lot of reasons why women don't say no. And it's really important, not just women, anyone, right? But this is a common thing with women. So this is what I mean when I say women don't say no. There are reasons why people don't say no, often women. And one of them is because sometimes, you know, they've had past experiences where they tried to say no and they did experience retaliation, or the person just didn't hear their no. They were raped or sexually assaulted, or there was some, you know, this is a real thing that happens. People have traumatic experiences that make them very sensitive to saying no and that make them question whether it's safe to say no. Even when it may be safe to say no, their past experiences are shouting the opposite. And so there are many reasons why it can be difficult for people to say no. And I think if you're going out there and hitting on people, no matter what the genders are that are involved, you have to be aware that sometimes people don't say no directly. And you have to learn how to listen for soft no's. And what is a soft no? A soft no is something like, well, okay, make this really easy. A soft no is anything other than, hell yes, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I love that point. So that point, the idea of, I think it's called, I've heard it expressed somewhere, it's either fuck yes or no, right? And so that's an excellent guideline. And then I also really liked what you said about when you're hitting on someone, you're just making an offer. And I see it happen sometimes where there's a situation where maybe there might be some sort of concern there. And a good way to maybe handle that is to be more like, hey, you know, I'd love to buy you a drink. I'm going to be over there at that bar. If you'd like to join me for a drink, come stop by, you know? And so you're making an offer where there's like no, someone can just not go there, say, okay, or I'm busy. You know what I mean? Like it's just an offer and it's not even a request. Yeah.
Can you teach women to be, because I was listening to what Stephanie said and I totally experienced a lot of that. I had some dude grope me and I tried to report it and it was terrible and blah, blah, blah.
And people didn't believe you.
Oh yeah, a total mess. And there's a lot of those kinds of things. But at the same time, I want to drive home the point that saying no isn't really like something that you should view as an option, right? Because I think of it as self-defense. And while I appreciate all the struggles, I do think that at the end of the day, there's black and white in that, you can say no to somebody or you can give them something mealy-mouthed. And I don't think that that's the time to be weak about it, because I understand all the reasons why one would be weak, but I almost don't excuse it. It's, what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like shooting somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really want to shoot them. Well, then they're going to rape. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like a really big leap from what we were talking about in terms of just saying no. But for me, I think that like our feelings about it need to almost be suppressed because of the practical nature of it. Like it's a fact that it might be happening and you might be getting into these situations. So you have to say no. And I don't know, how do you teach kids that earlier, right? Maybe you just teach women a little bit earlier without making them paranoid that every person that holds the door for them is going to, grab their ass or something.
Yeah. And I have 2 daughters. And so this is, I dealt with a lot of the issues like Stephanie's describing when I was younger. And so now I have 2 daughters and it's like, I want them to feel comfortable telling people no and to understand their own bounds and to be able to do that. And it's difficult. And how do you teach someone to do that? I think you start by instilling a sense of, personal boundaries and respect for their body as soon as you can, but it's tough, right? How do you teach people that? Please tell me.
Right. Well, we live in a culture that doesn't respect children's personal boundaries by default because children are forced to go to school and we're forced to pay taxes to pay for the schools, right, as parents. Yes. And we're forced to, if we want to fly, we have to go through the TSA line and we have to accept people touching us where we might not want to be touched. And so how do you teach respect for bodily integrity and boundaries and just healthy boundaries in general in a culture that doesn't always respect our boundaries? That's a big challenge. And hats off to you as a parent, Hannah, for trying to tackle that,
Yeah. And for guys listening, I want to underline also Hannah's point, like leave the men out and just be gentle, don't be like all aggressive. And it's not the 1950s, like we don't really want you to be that aggressive. Like, unless we're giving you the green light, we're giving you the eye. That's otherwise, I don't know. Guys got to chill out a little bit. Make it gentle. Be gentlemen. Literally gentlemen. Like there's a meaning to that word in some ways. And I really appreciate that. Because even, I don't know, you can be a gentleman and just be friends with a girl too. So I don't know. Bring it back. And don't be a creep.
That's a good point. Yeah. And I think I want to go back to something that we were talking about earlier. Like Tatiana, you were saying like, no, this is an opportunity to practice saying no and to practice improving your boundaries for women or people that are receiving the invitation or being hit on. And I guess I can see that, like, yes, okay, now in my life, I do take it as an opportunity to practice setting boundaries. When someone asks me for something that I want to say no to, but maybe I hesitate to say no because I'm a little bit afraid of saying no for whatever reason, right? Now I take that as an opportunity to practice my boundaries. That would have been really hard for me to do in the past. And I want to avoid putting any kind of shame or onus on women or other people who don't say no or have a difficult time saying no. I think the responsibility is on the person who's making the offer, who's doing the hitting on, to, if they're asking a question, would you like to have sex with me or would you like to go on a date with me? Then they're asking a question. They should be curious about what the answer really is, not only be open to hearing yes.
Good point.
Yeah, I agree. And it's you want an enthusiastic partner. If someone reluctantly gets into bed with you, like, is that really going to be that great? No?
Yeah, no, it's going to be terrible, right? I think most people don't want that. Most people want a partner who's excited about them.
And who wants someone to, get up and leave your place feeling horrible about having spent the night with you? Like you want someone to leave feeling fantastic about it. And that should always be the goal, right?
Yeah, I want to summarize this tip. My summary of this point is that, like, always be open to hearing no. That's how you avoid being creepy. Always hear the no, even if it's not a direct no or not a firm no, even if it's a soft no. If it's anything other than heck yes, it's a no. And be okay with that. Take it gracefully. Really listen and accept that answer. And don't keep trying until you get a yes.
And wait, and if you're unclear, you can leave a soft, hey, maybe some other time, and then that's it, like a little, I don't know, because sometimes people give mixed signals. I know if I like a guy, sometimes I might act like a weirdo. And I know if you really like someone, you feel like there's a connection there, but you don't have to do an even harder hitting on them next time. You could do like oh, well, okay, maybe next time, and then like try again in like a month or something. I don't know, but in a very even more gentle way.
Make it clear. Like, make it clear. Don't be like, oh, do you want to hang out? Be like, can I take you on a date, or would you like to go on a date? And then just do it once. And then after that, if they're, a capable, intelligent human, they've got the message, right?
I would be weirded out by that. If someone asked me on a date, like that just sounds really weird to me.
Well, maybe that's old-fashioned wording. I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, make it clear. Like, I am interested in you. I want to go out and hang out with you. This is it. Because the part that really irritates me is when people pretend to be interested in what you're doing professionally just because they want to get to know you personally. And that really that pisses me off when people do that. It's like, don't get me all excited about some project and I'm all nerding out and then it turns out you're just hitting on me. Like, just hit on me, Very
important point. Yes. Don't tell me about your business deal and then turn it into a date. I've said that like 8 times before.
Oh, it's so frustrating. Just hit on me, like it's just do it.
Oh my. So girls, we're coming up closer to the hour, but we have a little bit of time. Is there anything else that we wanted to talk about? Anything from this subject or previous subjects that we want to loop back around about?
No, I think that was a really important topic to talk about.
All right, girls, that was really a good conversation. I really appreciate your time, Hannah. We're going to have you on again, maybe on a regular old Q&A show. That might be fun. But in the meantime, can you give us a plug for the Institute one more time, and where can people connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the Blockchain Institute, and our tagline is "We Teach Blockchain." I actually think the URL weteachblockchain.org is linking back to our site now, but it's theblockchaininstitute.org, and you can find all kinds of free resources, a resource page with over 300 different links on it, and 6 free courses and a couple more coming soon. The building is open to the public next month, and we'll have in-person courses by the end of the year. So we're all super excited about that.
Awesome. And thank you once again to our sponsor, Vaultoro. Make sure you go to their website, vaultoro.gold/Tatiana, and you can sign up there. If you like this show, tell your friends. We're an independent little show. We're just on the Let's Talk Bitcoin network. So if you tell your friends about us, then it can grow. And then maybe people will learn more about crypto and also grow their emotional intelligence. So go to proofoflovecast.com, hit the share button. Find us on social media. And if you like this show, but maybe you want to think about things a little bit different, there's also the TatianaShow.com where I talk more about politics and crypto stuff with Josh Shigala from Vaultoro. So thank you everybody for tuning in. The Proof of Love comes out on Fridays, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
You are listening to Proof of Love with Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on Proof of Love is intended as financial advice, legal advice, therapy, or really anything other than entertainment. Please take everything that you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're hearing us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on, or of any of the sponsors or affiliate products that you may hear about on the show. Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. Thank you for listening to Proof of Love. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Proof of Lovecast. More episodes can be found at proofoflovecast.com. And make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. Proof of Love has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond.